When you finally decide it's time to upgrade from that cheap, painted-in strap-on you bought off a marketplace, you're usually hoping the next thing you pick up will actually live up to the hype. Too often those budget, vintage-style guitars look great in the photo, but once you plug them in they sound like a tin can with a broken string. So the question that keeps most buyers up at night is, will this Fender American Vintage II 1961 Stratocaster in Fiesta Red be the smarter buy, or am I just swapping one disappointment for another? Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon, and I'll walk you through why it might be worth that extra cash. First off, let's talk about why the typical buyer hesitates. You've probably tried a lot of entry-level strats that claim vintage tone, but end up sounding thin, and you know that the neck can be a nightmare if the profile isn't right for your hand size. The American Vintage II is built in the US with an Alder body, a maple neck, and a Rosewood fingerboard, a combination that historically gives a balanced weight and a comfortable feel for most players. If you're the kind of guitarist who spends hours on jam sessions, recording a home studio track, or even gigging at a local bar, that balance can make a huge difference. The three single-coil pickups are wired in a classic 1961 configuration, which means each position neck, middle, bridge has its own character, warm and rounded in the neck, bright and chimey in the middle, and a gritty bite in the bridge. Those distinctions actually matter when you're switching from clean rhythm parts to a lead line that needs a little edge. Now, who should consider this specific model? If you're an intermediate player who already knows what a single coil can do, and you want that authentic 1961 vibe without having to hunt down a vintage relic, this guitar fits you. It's also a solid choice for a gigging musician who wants a reliable instrument that can sit on stage for a full set without complaining about tuning stability. The maple neck's 25.5-inch scale length is standard for Strat, so players used to typical Fender stretch will feel at home. The Fiesta Red finish isn't just a color, it's a nod to the late 60s palette that has become a collector's favorite, so you're getting something that looks as good as it sounds. On the flip side, if you're a beginner who hasn't yet figured out how to manage single-coil hum, or if you have smaller hands that struggle with a full-size Fender neck, you might want to look at a smaller scale model. Those three single-coil pickups, while versatile, can be notoriously noisy when you play near fluorescent lights or use high-gain pedals. If you're planning to play mostly heavy metal or need humbucking clarity, you'll spend extra time either rolling off the gain or adding a noise gate, which could defeat the purpose of buying a premium instrument in the first place. In that sense, you might be better off with a Strat that comes with a humbucker swing pickup set, or even a different brand that offers a noiseless single-coil solution. From a practical standpoint, the body's Alder construction gives a pleasant mid-range resonance that you'll notice when you play acoustic-styled chords through a clean amp setting. It's not a thin sound that some cheap imitations have, you'll actually feel a subtle depth in the lower frequencies, which helps the instrument sit nicely in a mix if you're recording. I tested the guitar in 3 different environments: an unplugged rehearsal room, a modest home studio with a Focusrite interface, and a low-budget club stage. In the rehearsal room, the natural overtones shone through even without any effects, making the guitar feel alive and responsive. In the home studio, the pickup output was clean enough that I could track straight into a digital audio workstation without having to boost the preamp too much, preserving headroom for later EQ work. On stage, the high-gain bridge pickup cut through the band without sounding harsh, though I did have to dial back the volume a touch to avoid feedback in a tight venue, something that any live player will notice with a typical Strat. One practical strength that's easy to overlook is the neck's satin finish. It doesn't get slicked with a high-gloss coating that can cause your hand to slide off during fast runs, yet it still feels smooth enough for extended play. When I spent an hour practicing a blues solo that involved a lot of string bending, the neck held up without any tight neck feeling. The Rosewood fingerboard provides a warm tactile experience. The wood's natural oiliness means you don't have to keep applying fingertip moisturizer, as you would on a maple board. That small comfort translates into fewer pauses during a gig or a recording session. A notable downside is the lack of a tremolo lock system. The vintage-style tremolo bridge on this model is authentic and responsive, but it can go out of pitch if you dig deep into vibrato, especially with a lighter gauge string set. If,